It's really tough to go out there and make a video with this sort of thing as the topic. I don't know what to title it, I don't know how to make the thumbnail, because it's difficult to really say, oh, look at this 17, 18-year-old kid and the attitude problems he has. Yeah, look at the ego, look at the character concerns, look at this guy, he's a bad guy. It's difficult to do that to a guy who's literally a teenager. But when it comes to this player, I just wanted to go out there and show off some things that I've read over the past little while that I think make for an interesting conversation. And of course, you already know from the title, from the thumbnail, who we're talking about. We're going over Matvei Michkov, a guy who is arguably one of the top talents in this draft, debatably top 3, top 2 in the eyes of some scouts, but who might not go anywhere near that spot because of some external factors. Not just because he's got a contract in the KHL, not just because there's some uncertainty with the Russian state of hockey and the Russian state of the world, to be honest, but because of a few other things as well. Let's talk today about character, let's go over some opinions from scouts, and go over what this actually means. So, the first thing that I saw that sparked up a whole bunch of conversation was what Elliotte Friedman said on the yesterday edition of the 32 Thoughts podcast around the 31-minute mark. This was tweeted out by Habs Fan TV. According to Elliotte Friedman, even teams that went to meet Michkov in Russia could not get an appointment with him and had to catch him after a game to only talk for a few minutes. Is he too risky? The graphic attached to this tweet says that Michkov has not given any assurances that he will meet with teams that are interested in him. Furthermore, he also had Friedman mention himself that Michkov could possibly be maneuvering to go to a specific team. Now, when it comes to what specific team Michkov might be interested in going to, everybody is saying different things. Some are saying Montreal, some are saying Washington, some are saying Buffalo, and I mean, the one that makes the most sense to me is probably Washington because, Ovechkin. Ovechkin's there, you've got Miroshnichenko, you've got a few other Russian guys, so there definitely is a connection there with some Capitals players, but this is a really interesting idea. Matvei Michkov, of course, we know he wasn't at the Combine, so he wasn't interviewed by teams that are going out there and talking the prospects, but it's interesting to hear that some of the scouts that went over to Russia to talk to him directly may not have had the opportunity to do so, even though they were in direct vicinity with Matvei Michkov. And so on paper, this is a really weird thing to see a prospect exhibit. How he's so apparently against doing interviews with teams that he doesn't even talk to them once they go to his country and visit him in person. The idea of him maneuvering to go to a specific team is also interesting, but the reason we're making this video, after all, is because after this tweet was posted, there was a lot more meat on the bone that was explored elsewhere. You see, this tweet made by Habs Fan TV was posted onto the R Hockey subreddit, and one of the top comments goes out there and says this: I don't know why everyone already somehow made it political. Okay, I actually do, whatever, but it's not about that at all. This was talked about in Russia mainly for a couple of years now, but recently Andrei Nikolishin, who is a scout for the Blackhawks, said the following: To me, he is second or first in skill in the draft, but when it comes to character, to attitude to his teammates, coaching staff, management, fans, the man has really fallen low in the eyes of all the scouts, all the managers, and it has nothing to do with the tragedy, I'm assuming, about his father. Information about the player is collected, how he talks to his partners, how he talks to the coaches, how he behaves off the ice, and that's where it gets rough for Matvei. There are a lot of nuances that could be revealed. I can show you the correspondence when I wanted to meet with him and, as a scout, ask him some questions and do an interview, how he responds. I've never seen such disrespect in my life for other people. It's about Michkov's personality, not his nationality or his current whereabouts. So, Andrei Nikolishin is going out there and saying that Michkov has a bad attitude, how he's disrespectful, and how this is one of the main reasons he is falling in the eyes of scouts. You also had yourselves a reply from this article. This is from San Jose Hockey Now. Are there character concerns with Matvei Michkov, written by Sheng Peng from last week? Take a look at some of the comments made by anonymous NHL scouts as interviewed by Peng of San Jose Hockey Now. The first scout said, there's definitely a maturity factor there. I've asked some people that have met him, and they're like, he's kind of an a-hole. I hear that a lot. Cocky is how Scout 2 described what he's heard internally in his organization about Michkov. Scout number 3 said that I've heard he's not the nicest person. And entitled is how an independent KHL source described Michkov. And so, this is interesting, because this is the first time we have seen really anything come out about Michkov that indicates a lower draft standing than probably is appropriate because of things within his control. Like, okay, the political stuff, Russia, Ukraine, his dad, contract, that's out of his control. Okay, you could say the contract, he signed it, but that was a few years ago. That wasn't recently. And so all these things were things that were outside of his control, and therefore things that we really shouldn't have said detracted from his value as a prospect. And heck, you could even say this stuff isn't really all too meaningful either when it comes to just the pure talent perspective of how Michkov plays and how good he's going to be. But hearing that he is an a-hole, according to some NHL scouts, is not the best news in the world. Hearing that he is entitled, how he's disrespectful, how he's got all these qualities that scouts are labeling as pretty serious character issues, that it gets to the point now where it's like, okay, I don't even know how I want to title this video. Like, it's easier to go out there and label somebody with character issues or say that he's an a-hole or do all this when he's a 25-year-old multi-millionaire playing in the National Hockey League getting 20 goals every year. But Michkov is literally just a teenager who has not been drafted yet. So it's really interesting to me to hear this become the discourse surrounding this player. How he's not meeting with teams that are going to Russia to see him. How some scouts are saying that his communication, how he talks to his players, how he talks to the coaches, how he behaves, that's where it gets rough. How there's nuance in the way that he talks to people and how he's disrespectful and his personality, maturity factor, a-hole, cocky, not the nicest person, entitled. There's a lot of word throwing out here. And that's interesting, because if you're a Montreal Canadiens fan seeing this for the first time, all of a sudden you're like, do I want that kind of personality around Cole Caulfield? Do I want Nick Suzuki and his leadership to be questioned by a Matvei Michkov who is apparently a pretty big a-hole? I don't know. Now, of course, character issues and all this stuff, it's a really interesting pattern that we tend to see with Russian players. Like, it's a stereotype at this point, isn't it? Oh, the cold-blooded Russian guy that doesn't play for his team, but he's super talented. Like, this is a thing that has been going on for decades. This sort of idea that Russian players have this cold personality. But now, for the first time in a really long time, I feel like we're letting it flow into the draft conversations before the draft pick is actually made. Hey, is it worth it to take a guy like this in the second, third, or fourth overall spot? You're unsure about all the stuff politically. You're unsure about the stuff with his KHL contract. You're unsure about how he's going to develop. And on top of that, he's got this toxic personality. So how far does he fall after that? I'm starting to really think that Michkov at 11 is not an unrealistic idea. I'm starting to think that him falling outside the top 10 is a lot more possible than we had thought initially. And so, heading into the next few weeks here, because you gotta remember, the draft is at the end of the month, we've got a few days here, this is where things get interesting. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your opinions about Matvei Michkov and his character issues? Apparently it's really serious. I don't know. We'll talk about this more as the days go on and as more information comes out too, but let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. What are your opinions about Matvei Michkov and all this stuff that we had talked about in this video? Links are going to be in the description to the article that we looked at, as well as the Reddit comments as well, because, I mean, most of this came from Reddit, to be fair. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.